Hey everyone, I'm Rushlock, and this is a quick overview of the upcoming November release for EVE Online, the free-to-play updates, the Alpha Omega clones situation, and the bare bones facts for what you might want to see if you haven't had a chance yet to look at the full dev blog. The dev blog itself will be linked down below the video. You can look at it at your leisure, but if you want the nuts and bolts, short version, here we go. So this character, Uhtred, is a Minmatar. Currently subscribed. Let's go to the ship tree for visual aid. Let's say I unsubscribe this account. Uhtred is currently trained for battle cruisers up to battleship Minmatar, working on level 5 currently. Let's say I let the sub lapse on this account. I will then have access to cruisers, T1, destroyers, and frigates, all Tech 1, only for the Minmatar faction because that's the base of the character itself. I will not lose my battle cruiser and battleship and beyond skill points, they just become inaccessible. You'll also lose access to T2 modules. Quick questions, some people are like, what if I log out and I come back, unsubscribed, and I'm in a T2 ship, or I'm in a ship with T2 mods, what will happen? Those modules will be offlined. You just simply dock up and refit or reship or whatever you're going to do. But you'll have access to Cruiser Down, T1, and a limited number of modules that don't go into the T2 mod versions. So another thing to keep in mind, again, you don't lose the skill points, you don't lose your ships, you don't lose any of your assets. They become inaccessible. You cannot utilize them. But that's the short version of the differences. So you have an Alpha clone and Omega clone. If you're currently subscribed or at any point subscribed to EVE Online, you'll be in a state of Omega clone. You'll notice no differences, no changes, nothing like that. If, however, your account status lapses to unsubscribed, or you start a new account, if you're a new player to the game, you'll be in what's called the Alpha clone state. The Alpha clone is limited to 5 million skill points. You do not pick the skills. It's not a wide open 5 mil skill point limit that you can train whatever you want. You are again limited to your faction, cruiser T1 and down, and then some other skills to interact with. They will be listed in the dev blog that's linked below the video if you want greater detail. But the main point and takeaway is that it's not customizable. It's not a player picks the 5 mil. They kind of put you on rails, which is great for new players. And sufficient for returning players who, maybe don't have a lot of playtime and are just hopping in to participate in an op, and then, don't have time to hop in again, so they don't see the value or don't have the value for subscribing at that point, but they can still participate with community events and ops and things like that. But I think this will be a great tool for both getting exposure for the game for new players, maybe bring a few old players who just, would like to interact but can't justify the sub price for their limited hours of interaction. But we've kind of covered all the nuts and bolts for the facts. Again, the dev blog itself, which also has a video posted by CCP Siegel, going into great detail about the upcoming changes. You can check that out whenever you want. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, things like that, you can put them down below the video. I think that pretty much covers everything. Personal opinion, this is completely subjective, but I think it's a great way for EVE Online to interact with a free-to-play model. I've always had concerns that if they had a free-to-play, it would bring in just too much, for lack of a better term, crap into the game. You'd have a lot of players running around who are not invested in the product, and they just find ways to scum things up and make things horrible. Not in traditional, EVE way that we're all used to, but in just a no investment equals no caring about the game or the sandbox itself. So I think this is a good system. Some players have voiced concern that Cruiser T1 down is too limiting. I don't agree. Cruisers are highly efficient ships. I should also point out, I should have brought this up during the facts section, but so let's say I had level 5 cruiser from Minmatar. The Alpha clones are limited to level 4 cruiser, so I wouldn't lose my 5th rank from skill points, I would just lose access to the bonuses. So if I were flying a Stabber as a subscriber, I'd have level 4 bonuses, level 5 if I bothered to train it. But as soon as I go to Alpha states, it would treat the ship I was flying as if it had level 4 bonuses. Just a little nuance to point out for those who thought T1 Cruiser down meant you'd have access to level 5 skills. Typically all the spaceship command skills are limited to level 4. But again, you can look at that detail list in the dev blog itself. But anyway, back to the opinion part of it. I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously, we'll learn more once it's implemented and we get some feedback and some interaction with it. I think it will allow previously active players to come back in a limited scope, and as their gaming time budget or financial budget allows, they'll support the game as they're able to. I think it's a great way to take the current trial system, remove the time cap from it. Something we talk about on the broadcast a lot is that player A, we'll use Frank in the community as an example. If he gets 2 to 3 weeks of free game time, he can put in scores of hours in that 3 weeks and put a lot of time into the game and see a lot of it. Whereas you take somebody who maybe has a more traditional 9 to 5 schedule, maybe gets to play for an hour or two in the evenings during their work week, and then get to play for like a 4-hour session on the weekend if they're lucky. By the end of a 2 or 3 week trial, they may have accumulated 20 hours in the game. That's not a great time block to discover your niche in EVE Online. A lot of new players, at least the ones I've interacted with in the broadcast chat, have always, come in 1 or 2 weeks in and said, I enjoyed the concept of the game, but I just never really got to get in my stride. I never really got to discover my niche. I tried a bunch of different things. At the end of my trial, I really wasn't good at anything. I didn't have really anything to accomplish. By removing the time base from the trial into the alpha clone system, this will allow people to discover their niches at their own pace, as opposed to being on a clock to do so. So someone might start the game in August, and by October, November, finally hit their stride and say, hey, this is what I want to do. That person would not have been able to do that on the trial system, but with the Omega clone system, they can. But that's my view on it. I think it'll be a great potential method for acquiring and retaining new players. And I look forward to answering questions in the broadcast chats or in the comments here below. But you all have fun, enjoy, and we'll see you next time.